Hello Sales Nation, I'm Will Barron, host of the Salesman Podcast. In this video, 5 of the world's leading sales and cold emailing experts share their practical steps, techniques, and hacks to get a better response rate to your cold business sales email outreach.
Salespeople want to get a response, but I don't think they often think about what would make that lead respond. I think that, I'm a sales guy, I'm working with this prospect, I'm sending them an email, it says, we got this great deal, why the hell aren't they responding? And I think that if you're a salesperson talking to a lead or you're doing manual prospecting, you need to send an email that makes people understand, first you need to get their attention. We get dozens and dozens and dozens of emails a day. So getting their attention is everything from the subject line, from the preview text of the email. If it's a text email, the preview text is just going to be your first line. So what is that first line? Because they're going to see it on the Apple Mail client. Any email needs to be completely about the person that you're sending it to, whether it's a newsletter, a blog digest, even a transactional email that you just signed up for the newsletter. It's a cold email. Maybe it's an upsell email. It should be totally based on that person, their interests, their desires. And I think some sales guys, if they're sending great emails, may know this. It's called the AIDA format: attention, interest, desire, action. So that's where you start with the attention. You're relating to that IT prospect. Oh, you're right. I hate setting up this giant Polycom system. I hate that. And then interest. Oh, I can somehow, High Five has developed a modern video conferencing technology. It's hardware and software integrated. So now I may be interested in what that is. Then I go into, you don't have to pay per user, or it's a 20th of the cost, or it's 5-minute setup. What I like to do is I like to provide most of the information up front, and I think it also depends on how your organization is structured. If sales is going to take the majority of the outbound emailing, and maybe they're doing that one-off, then you can test that strategy. With anything, just test everything.
Yeah.
Don't have any assumptions. Don't think that your hypothesis is correct. Just go and test it with your data. Keep good experimental, just like you're in high school. You got your scientific method of emailing, and use that to get some of your answers to questions that you don't know. But you definitely want to have multiple steps. So people are not going to be super annoyed if you send them 2-3 emails. Maybe some people will, but that's just the nature of emailing a lot of people.
Yeah.
But you need to at least get that second or third step in there, because then they'll go back and look at, okay, what did they say? Now I'm taking time to look at what they want. And whether that's in the first email or the second email, people will search your name and look at what you've sent them. And that may be from the marketing side, because marketing can get in all of that product language. For salespeople that are just sending one-off emails, I would definitely try to have something, maybe a light Gmail tool, something that can allow you to send follow-ups.
Well, I mean, there's the qualitative way and the quantitative way to do it. I'm a former economist, so I like numbers. I would say a good response rate, which is ultimately the thing that you're aiming for. So a good positive response rate would be somewhere between 10 to 35%. That said, that number ranges as much as it does, because if you're reaching out to CIOs, they're going to be a lot harder to get a hold of than VP sales or VP marketing. So when I say 10 to 35%, if you're on the 10% side, that should really only be more so if you're reaching out to really difficult people, usually more so technical people. But don't say, oh, I'm great because I have 30% necessarily, because you can get higher than that. It's just that you have to think about the audience, also product market fit, and list quality. And so if your numbers are hovering in the low single-digit percentage, your emails might suck, or you might just have a really bad list. So you shouldn't necessarily automatically think my numbers suck my emails suck if my numbers suck, but there's a good chance that they do. Qualitatively, though, if you're getting a bunch of nasty responses to the cold emails or sales prospecting emails you send, that's a good indicator. I mean, there'll always be trolls and jerks out there who just hate cold email, hate sales, hate whatever, not your fault. Maybe they're having a bad day. But at the same time, our salespeople and a lot of our clients, one of the things they tell us is even when people reject them, they do it in such a polite way most of the time. So that's a good sign, because I mean, maybe we're just getting lucky, but I think it's more than that. I think it's that the emails we're sending have a thoughtful, respectful tone. So even when people are not interested, they and politely and respectfully decline, rather than saying like "F you, don't ever blah blah blah." Like some people actually do have to deal with. And as a salesperson, it's not easy. I mean, rejection's never easy, but it's nice when they're not like wanting to like throw a coffee mug at you.
Based on research that I've done, I'd say typical sales rep is getting around a 3.5% response rate, which is really, really low. But that's actually what most, and that's taking tons of the worst performing reps too, and including that stuff. Because there are people that probably listen to this podcast that are doing really well and getting better. But I think 3.5 is sort of the benchmark that I say is where people start on prospecting, where they're getting a response rate. Or if they're doing calls, it's that low too.
And I was talking with a Marketo implementation consultant. 3% is pretty much standard across the board, even for marketing automation, and they think that's good.
I actually think if you go back in history and stem through it, I've been telling Cole this, if you go back in time and I could go to the person that sent the first cold email and said, look, you don't have to email the phone script. Don't do that. Like, use email to be fun and playful and do things to entertain them and blow their minds and stuff. Like, I wish I could do that. Because what it's done is it's basically created this ecosystem where we all have this monkey see, monkey do effect, where someone gets a cold email from someone, they're like, I should do that. And then they go and do that, and it's not effective. Why do we keep repeating the same tactics over and over again if it's only going to work 3.5% of the time?
Yeah, well, I think a natural progression that can hurt a company as it grows and grows as sales organization is the siloing and these processes that get put into place that then become stale, and everybody's doing the same thing, and it's just this chain of command that's creating these robots, I hate to say, and then things just sort of plateau, and everybody's wondering, why aren't we being effective anymore, from this process that we created that's so great. And I think the constant needs to be change. We need to be reinventing ourselves a lot as salespeople and the messaging that we do. And we need to insert our personalities and iterate how we communicate with our prospects to create a human connection. Because, yeah, that email template that worked for everybody last month that you're now picking up off that blog, it's already been used, and your prospects know it.
So this is where I think you have to spend a lot of time looking through your list of people. Let's just say you've made a list of people you want to contact. You've got emails ready to go and whatnot. I think a lot of, at least what I've seen, a lot of people just kind of, I'm going to do a spray and pray, or I'm going to massively email thousands of people. Well, I urge people, one, to simply like scrub through that email list with an intern, yourself, whatever, and just see, who do you know? Like, who do you actually have a connection with? Engage with them on social media. So like the first and foremost thing is like, it's only a cold email if this is your first contact, or if this is their first time seeing you. So by simply, viewing their profile on LinkedIn, or even following them on social, or engaging with whatever they have as far as assets, whether it's like again, LinkedIn posts, you can comment, a blog post, even better, but just get on their radar somehow, and do that before you reach out. So now it's not necessarily as cold of an email. But the other thing is like looking at kind of what makes them tick, or what's something you can provide them as value. So that's really hard to do on a large scale. So I like to bucket into things like couple categories. So let's say I'm reaching out to a bunch of CEOs. Well, one, maybe I categorize it based off the size of the company they manage, maybe the industry they manage. And that will determine maybe the article I send them or the angle I approach. So again, just making it a little bit more specific to that person it is going to be very, very powerful.
Here's why video is so important, because when time or distance or technology, like, hey, 15 years ago, people decided that we're going to mainly communicate over email, and that's how we're going to prospect. And then for 15 years, we've been communicating that way. And since the beginning of mankind, we've been communicating one way, and that's face to face. And we got really good at communicating face to face. And then all of a sudden, we just turned it off. And we said, now we're going to communicate digitally. We're going to remove the most important part of the message. We're going to remove that out, and that's the messenger. So now there's no longer the messenger contained within the message, and we become the text on someone's screen. And it's been very hard for salespeople to communicate in that fashion. It's an entirely different way to think. And what video allows you to do is try to get back to that face-to-face communication where they can hear your voice, see your face, hear the passion that you have about your product, hear how you believe in your product and your system. And it's just trying to do, like we said earlier, trying to go back to the way that sales was in a more personal one-to-one relationship and allowing people to understand who you are as a person and not hiding behind the text on the screen.